All right, welcome back to the deep dive. You ready to jump in?
Always.
Perfect. So, Bitcoin, huh? It's been a wild ride recently. Like seriously wild.
You're not kidding? Breaking all its own records again.
Exactly. We've got an article here from Crypto Potato. It's called Bitcoin, BTC, charts new all-time high, close to 94K as bull rally resumes.
Catchy title.
Right. And they published this on November 19th, just a few days ago.
So it's pretty up to date.
Very much so. And it's mind-blowing because Bitcoin just hit almost $94,000, a new all-time high. Again,
Incredible to watch, isn't it?
it really is. So the question is, are we going to see a $100,000 Bitcoin?
That's the million-dollar question, literally.
Maybe a billion-dollar question at this point.
Huh, maybe you're right.
But seriously, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's break down what's been happening. This new record came like less than a week after the last one. The speed of this jump is insane.
Totally. And it's interesting. The Crypto Potato article links the initial surge back to the U.S. election results.
Oh, yeah, right.
When Donald Trump was elected on November 5th,
Everyone was talking about that.
Bitcoin was around $68,000 before the election, and then bam, it jumps to $75,000, like that day.
Seriously. So the market was holding its breath waiting for the election.
It seems that way. There's a lot of speculation about why. Some analysts are saying that Trump's win was, seen as a positive for Bitcoin.
As he's been pretty vocal about supporting cryptocurrency, right?
Exactly. But others think it was just a reaction to the uncertainty surrounding the election.
Like a, what do they call it, flight to safety.
Exactly. So who knows? Maybe it was excitement, maybe it was fear. But either way, Bitcoin just kept climbing from there.
And now look where we are. Over $93,000 last Wednesday, though it did dip a bit.
Yeah, some people probably decided to cash in on those gains.
I mean, I can't blame them. But then it bounced right back up and blew past $94,000.
It's on a roll.
All of this growth has pushed Bitcoin's market cap to something like $1.85 trillion. Think about that. That makes it the seventh largest asset globally.
That's wild. Bigger than some massive companies,
I mean, it's up there with Alphabet and Amazon.
which is insane.
Can you break down what market cap actually means? Why is it such a big deal?
Sure. So market cap, or market capitalization, is basically a way to measure the total value of all the Bitcoin out there.
Okay, how do you calculate that?
You take the current price of one Bitcoin, and you multiply that by the total number of Bitcoins in circulation.
Makes sense.
So the higher the market cap, the more influential that asset is in the global market.
So a $1.85 trillion market cap for Bitcoin, that means it's a serious player now.
Oh, absolutely. This is not some fringe investment anymore.
Not at all. Now, Crypto Potato mentions a few things driving this insane growth. One that caught my eye was, well, companies like MicroStrategy.
Oh, yeah, MicroStrategy. They've been buying Bitcoin like it's going out of style.
They're really going all in.
Tell me about it.
Can you give us some background on them? What makes them so influential in the crypto world?
Sure. MicroStrategy is a business intelligence company, and they've basically become like a Bitcoin evangelist.
Okay.
They started buying Bitcoin back in 2020, and they haven't stopped since.
Their CEO, what's his name, Michael Saylor?
Yeah, Michael Saylor, he's a huge believer in Bitcoin, thinks it's the future of finance.
So when a company like that buys a ton of Bitcoin, it sends a message, right?
Definitely. It's a big vote of confidence. It often encourages other companies, other investors to get on board as well.
So they're kind of leading the charge.
In a way, yeah. And the article also mentions some other companies like Metaplanet who are buying Bitcoin too, though not at the same scale as MicroStrategy.
But still, that shows there's growing interest, right?
Yeah, more and more businesses are starting to see Bitcoin as a real asset, as a way to maybe protect themselves against inflation.
Okay, so we've got big companies buying in. That's definitely pushing the price up. But the article also mentions short liquidations. Honestly, it sounds a little intimidating.
Yeah, that's a really interesting part of the market, and it actually contributes to these rapid price swings.
Really?
So imagine they borrow Bitcoin from someone else, hoping the price will go down,
Okay.
and then they sell those borrowed Bitcoins. The plan is to buy them back later at a lower price.
To make a profit from the difference.
Exactly. They return the Bitcoin to the lender and keep the profit. That's what shorting Bitcoin is. You're basically betting on the price dropping.
So they're trying to profit from Bitcoin failing.
Right. But if the price goes up instead, they lose money.
Makes sense.
And if the price jumps up a lot, like it just did, these short sellers are forced to buy back the Bitcoin at that higher price just to cover their losses.
So everyone's scrambling to buy it back, which pushes the price up even more.
Yeah, it creates this kind of snowball effect. It's called a short squeeze.
Wow.
And the
Okay.
article says that from this recent surge alone, there was $70 million in short liquidations, and almost $300 million in total positions were wiped out just in one day.
That's a lot of money lost.
It really highlights how risky this can be, especially if you're trying to play the short game.
So you've got this perfect storm happening. You've got these big companies investing. You've got short sellers getting squeezed, and just general hype pushing Bitcoin higher and higher. It all goes back to that big question. $100,000 Bitcoin, is that really possible soon?
It's on everyone's mind, that's for sure. Based on what we're seeing, I'd say it's definitely possible. But Bitcoin,
Unpredictable.
totally unpredictable, even for the experts.
Nobody has a crystal ball,
Well,
but it's definitely exciting to think about.
it is exciting. And if it does reach $100,000, it would be a huge win for Bitcoin. It would really show that it's becoming mainstream. But it also brings up some interesting questions.
Like what?
Like, will we see even more institutional investment? Will regular people start using Bitcoin for everyday purchases? And how will governments react to this, decentralized currency gaining so much power?
Wow, okay. Those are some big questions. It feels like we're in uncharted territory here.
In a lot of ways, we are. It's like a global financial experiment, and nobody knows for sure what the outcome will be.
It's definitely exciting and maybe a little bit scary. But one thing's for sure, Bitcoin is changing things up in ways we never imagined just a few years ago.
Yeah, and we're just starting to see the impact. This isn't just about the price of Bitcoin. There's a whole ecosystem developing around it. New technologies, new businesses, new ways of thinking about money and value, like take decentralized finance, for example, or DeFi. It's offering alternative ways to borrow, lend, invest, all without traditional banks.
Wow, it's like a whole parallel financial universe.
You could say that,
Yeah.
and it's attracting some seriously brilliant minds, not to mention investment dollars. Who knows what innovations we'll see in the next few years?
It really makes you think, is this just the tip of the iceberg? If Bitcoin does hit $100,000, will that launch DeFi into the mainstream? Could it change how we think about money and finance?
It's entirely possible. If Bitcoin, the OG of crypto, hits that kind of milestone, it would definitely legitimize the whole crypto space, including DeFi. More people might start exploring these alternatives, which could push us toward a more decentralized future.
So we might actually be watching a financial revolution happen right now.
It's a real possibility.
This is pretty incredible. I have to ask, though, with all this focus on Bitcoin, what about all those other cryptocurrencies out there? Are they just following Bitcoin's lead?
Well, Bitcoin was the first, and it has a special place. But each cryptocurrency has its own thing going on. Some are all about privacy, some are focused on speed, others are for specific things like supply chain management or digital art.
So it's not just a one-size-fits-all thing.
Exactly. It's diverse, it's constantly changing, and just like in nature, some will succeed, some will adapt, and some won't make it. It's all part of this grand experiment.
I love that analogy. For those of us who are interested but feel a little lost, what's the best way to approach all this? What advice do you have?
Be curious.
Yeah.
Be willing to learn. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Do your research and experiment a little. Start small, maybe with a platform where you can buy fractions of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies.
So dip your toes in before diving in head first.
Exactly. And, it's okay to be skeptical too. This is still new. It's changing all the time. You have to be careful. Never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Sound advice.
It's easy to get caught up in the hype, but you got to be smart about it.
All right, to wrap this up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from today?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the world of finance is changing, and it's happening right now. Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, DeFi, they're all shaking things up, creating new possibilities.
Like we're on the edge of a new era.
Exactly. And whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting to look into this stuff, it's worth paying attention to. The future of finance is being written now, and we're all part of it.
Totally agree. And for our listeners who want to keep learning, we'll be back with more deep dives into other exciting topics in crypto and tech.
Until then, keep learning, keep asking questions, and stay curious.
Absolutely. Now let's take a quick break, but stick around. When we come back, we'll be exploring what a $100,000 Bitcoin could really mean for the world and what other exciting developments we might see in the future. Stay with us.
Okay, we're back and still trying to grasp this whole Bitcoin thing. Before the break, we were talking about it maybe hitting $100,000. What would that even look like? I mean, for someone like me, just starting to learn about crypto.
It's a great question. And a lot of people are wondering the same thing. If Bitcoin hits $100,000, it'll be a huge moment. It would really show that it's a major force in the global economy.
It would kind of solidify its place, right?
Exactly. But then it also brings up a bunch of new questions like, will we see even more companies investing? Will everyday people start using Bitcoin for like their daily purchases?
Yeah, I've never actually used it to buy anything.
Right. And how are governments going to react to this decentralized currency that's gaining so much power? Those are some pretty deep questions. It's like we're standing on the edge of something massive, but we don't really know what it is yet.
That's the exciting part. It's like we're watching a financial revolution happen right in front of us.
Okay, so maybe Bitcoin at $100,000 is like too much to think about right now, but you were talking about this whole ecosystem developing around it. Can you explain that a little more? I think a lot of people, myself included, don't really get it.
Absolutely. So beyond the price of Bitcoin itself, there's this wave of innovation happening. One of the most exciting areas is what they call decentralized finance, or DeFi for short.
DeFi. Sounds kind of futuristic.
It kind of is. DeFi is all about creating financial tools and services, but they're built on blockchain technology, kind of like Bitcoin. But instead of relying on, traditional banks or institutions, it's all about direct interaction, peer-to-peer.
So like cutting out the middleman.
Exactly. With DeFi, you can do things like lend and borrow money, trade cryptocurrencies, you can even earn interest, all without going through a bank.
Whoa, that's pretty amazing. So it's like a whole separate financial system running alongside the traditional one.
You got it. And it's growing like crazy. It's attracting some of the smartest people in tech and finance.
Yeah.
The possibilities are like endless.
It makes you wonder, if Bitcoin does hit that $100,000 mark, could that like push DeFi into the mainstream? Could it change how we think about money altogether?
It's definitely possible. Think about it. If Bitcoin, the OG of crypto, reaches that kind of milestone, it's a huge boost for the whole ecosystem, including DeFi. It might encourage more people to look into these alternatives, and that could speed up the shift to a more decentralized future.
So we could be seeing the very beginning of a financial revolution that changes everything.
That's a real possibility, and it's happening right now.
I don't even know what to say. With all this talk about Bitcoin, what about all those other cryptocurrencies? Are they just like following Bitcoin's path?
That's a good question. Bitcoin was the first, and it still holds a special position. But every cryptocurrency has its own unique features and potential. Some are focused on privacy, others on speed, and others on specific things, like managing supply chains or digital art even.
So it's not just a one-size-fits-all situation.
Exactly. It's diverse, it's constantly changing. Just like in the natural world, some will thrive, some will adapt, and some, well, they might not make it. It's all part of this big experiment.
I love that analogy. So for someone like me who's intrigued but also a bit lost, what's the best way to approach this? Any advice?
The most important thing is to be curious and be willing to learn. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Do your own research. Experiment a little. Start small. Maybe try a platform where you can buy, fractions of Bitcoin or the cryptocurrencies. Just get a feel for it.
So ease into it. Don't jump in the deep end right away.
Exactly. And it's okay to be a little skeptical, too. This is all new and changing so fast. Be careful. Never invest more than you can afford to lose.
That's really good advice. It's easy to get caught up in the hype and forget to be smart about it.
Exactly. This is about more than just making money. It's about understanding the tech, the potential, and, the risks.
So to wrap up, what's the one key thing you want listeners to walk away with?
I think the biggest thing is to remember that the world of finance is changing, and it's happening right now. Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, DeFi, it's all shaking things up, creating new opportunities.
It does feel like we're on the cusp of something new.
Yeah, and whether you're an experienced investor or just starting to learn about this stuff, it's worth paying attention to. The future of finance is being shaped right now, and we're all part of it.
Couldn't agree more. And for those who want to learn even more, we'll be back with more deep dives into other exciting topics in crypto and tech.
Until then, keep learning, keep asking questions, and stay curious.
Thinking back to that Crypto Potato article, something that really stuck with me was that almost $300 million in trading positions were wiped out in just one day because of this price surge.
Yeah, it's a wild reminder of just how volatile this market can be. The potential rewards are huge, but the risks are definitely real.
It makes you think about those short sellers, the ones betting against Bitcoin. $300 million in losses, I can't even fathom that kind of pressure.
Yeah, it's a high-stakes game, for sure. And it really highlights why it's so important for anyone getting into crypto to be cautious. Do your research and never invest more than you can afford to lose.
This isn't about getting rich quick. It's about understanding the technology, the potential, and yeah, definitely the risks.
Absolutely. Knowledge is key, especially when you're dealing with something as complex and ever-changing as cryptocurrency.
So for our listeners out there, whether you're seasoned Bitcoin pros or just starting to dip your toes in, I think the main takeaway here is to stay informed, stay curious, and most importantly, stay safe.
Couldn't agree more. It's a journey, this whole crypto thing. And it's important to approach it with a level head and maybe a healthy dose of skepticism too.
I like that because this Bitcoin story, it's still being written. Who knows what's coming next?
That's the beauty of it, right? It's always evolving. And we're all watching it happen.
We started this deep dive wondering if Bitcoin could reach $100,000. We explored the reasons behind its growth, talked about what it could mean, and looked at the risks. But at the end of the day, who knows what the future holds?
True. But one thing is certain, it's definitely a story worth following.
For sure. And we'll be right here with you every step of the way, diving into all the latest developments and trying to make sense of it all together with our listeners.
Exactly. So until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep those questions coming, and most importantly, stay curious.
The future of finance is being shaped right now. It's up to all of us to be a part of it, to think about it carefully, and to, be responsible. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Bitcoin.